say, because I know you sent me this. I actually want to ask about this. I didn't look into it because I wanted to ask you live about this because you sent me this. And I actually don't know what this is. I'll be honest, I don't know what this is. Is it learn about I don't know how to pronounce that, Thawabet? Unfollow anyone who did not uphold this. And so you guys have very, and you mentioned this before, very, I wouldn't say strict because it's fair. So strict is not the right word, but you guys are very particular about how you guys side with people who want to be quote unquote pro-Palestinian. So I'll just pass to you very openly before we move on to the rest of the panel. Can you explain this and what this means, Ashley?
I can, but I would like if others want to speak up.
Yeah, feel free. Yeah, absolutely. If you want to pass it, feel free.
They have so many good things to say, so I'm gonna let someone else speak.
Yeah, absolutely. Feel free to actually in this conversation. This is almost like a free form conversation in a way, guys. So if you guys want to chime in, I won't mind. So if you want to just interject yourself, I won't be upset with that. But go ahead, Reem. I see you on mute, so I'll pass it to you if you want to take this on.
Yeah, no, thank you. I just wanted to say the Thawabet, they're not strict. It's just they're what I like to call healthy boundaries.
Yeah.
They're if you read them and you get to know them and you learn about them, it's literally what every sovereign indigenous people deserve. It's not just about Palestinians. It's having healthy boundaries, having autonomy, having agency as a people, and just sticking to your principles. I think every people follow a certain kind of thawabith, or but when it comes to Palestinians and Muslims, they're like, oh, no, you're asking for too much. And that's what I think is so crazy, is that when people see this, like, who wouldn't resist someone coming into their home and killing their entire family? Who wouldn't resist that? So that's really what the Thawabet is all about. It's about boundaries, sovereignty on every level, and autonomy.
Yeah, thank you for that answer. I want to pass it to the panel. Anyone want to chime in? I'll pass it to the panel if you guys want to chime in before we move on.
Yeah, I just want to add, when somebody goes into whatever it is, you're going into a car dealership, let's say. You go in ready. You know what you want. You know what the game is, the hustle. You know those are sharks, right? It's weird to me in the West, in the US, they've created a caricature of Palestinians as if we don't know what we want and we're helpless. And I hope to the audience, I'm speaking English, right? Like I'm kind of articulate, maybe, I don't know, but they make this caricature as if we are, and we've seen this historically, the ignorant, savage, uncivilized, has no direction, and just completely helpless, and they swoop in with their savior complex. The Thawabits came about through a collective effort, regardless of the different political group at the time, as Palestinians were fighting for their liberation back in the 50s and the 60s. And this formation came about mid 60-ish, where they became complete. And it was something that all of the groups agreed to upholding. They are the compass. And they never deteriorated, but the agenda was that if the US and the Zionists can infiltrate that space and influence certain actors there to hijack it and reduce those demands, that they might have a chance at saving the Zionist entity itself and this colonial entity that serves as a satellite to US imperialism. So anybody who has an issue with the Thawabit, I've been called purist, I've been called extreme, I've been called all kinds of stuff because I uphold the thing our people collectively came up with. I believe in self-autonomy and that process. But here they attack you for it because they want to insist on the US agenda. And that's where you can tell who's truly with you in solidarity and who's just there to dig under you and make you fall.
There's another word too, Bushra. It's and I only recently learned this word. It's maximalism. When you're asking for the Thawabit, or when you're demanding the Thawabit, your basic rights, you're called a maximalist, which is, I think, again, they expect to kind of like just chip away at our sovereignty, to chip away at our identities and culture. And And when you don't accept that there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
Well, I think it also highlights, this is something I've learned from all of you guys, there is a difference as to what constitutes as resistance in the West, and there's resistance in Palestine proper. Because, I mean, there's been a sort of, that's part of the downside of an issue like Palestine starting to become so large in the public sector the way that it is. In that, I mean, it's everywhere on Instagram now. Everyone who is on Instagram now sees what is happening in Gaza and knows what's wrong, but then it can also misdirect them towards the wrong understanding of certain things, like the issue of the helpless Palestinian who needs a savior, as if everything that's happening in Gaza was not spearheaded by, I shouldn't say spearheaded, it began as retaliation for Palestinians actually daring to fight back against their oppressors. And that's just a narrative that's missing right now, is the resistance in Palestine versus, you know, I don't want to say like a commodity of resistance, but, you know, there's certain, everything is resistance on Instagram, when in reality, it's the resistance in Palestine that is actively, militantly opposing the occupation and theft of their land. And I mean, in part because these social media platforms don't let us really have those discussions. But I mean, it's also how to prevent that capture, like what you were saying, of a very real revolutionary momentum becoming just siphoned into a nonprofit or, you know, like a lobbying group, like, you know, certain lobbyist groups that I won't name, but yeah.
Yeah, the people who condemn Palestinian resistance make my skin crawl, and they are very dangerous. Like, because it's obvious what the Western governments are planning to do to anyone who resists them. The Palestinians are the people who they feel they can get away with. Do you guys have any idea what I would do if there was a hostile? Like, there's not even like a similar example I can give, but let's say there was a hostile foreign state that evicted my mother from her home at gunpoint, like many Palestinians go through, like forcibly evicted. If I had relatives that was brutally murdered by a hostile foreign state, do you guys know how quick I would join Hamas or any resistance group if I had anyone in my family murdered by an apartheid regime? Putting that off the table absolutely does not serve us at all. As someone who comes from the radical Black tradition, as someone who don't believe in liberalism, I believe in self-defense. Liberalism will get you killed. I believe in community defense, especially if you have a criminal occupier. Pacifism, that shit's gonna get us killed. If you're privileged enough to engage in it, good for you. But that's the absolutely last thing we should be condemning